Prepare yourselves, because today's tale involves an elaborate disappearing act, a cheating fiancé, and a mother-in-law's unexpected twist. This incredible narrative centers on a nuclear ghosting operation designed to exact retribution on a deceitful partner. The key players in this drama were myself, my intended bride, and her mother. The timeline for this unfolded between 2013 and 2016. It's been quite a few years since these occurrences, and honestly, I haven't breathed a word of this to anyone in my new life until now. Tonight, with a good glass of wine in hand, I figured I'd let my fingers do the storytelling. I genuinely believed I had found the ideal woman. We first crossed paths during our final year of university, hitting it off immediately at a party. She was a stunning blonde, with skin kissed by the sun, truly model-esque, like a Kate Upton type. She possessed kindness, empathy, understanding, was a superb listener, and led an active social life with many companions. She got along well with my friends, which made our 3 years together absolutely wonderful. Our social circles blended seamlessly, and several of our friends even began dating each other. Those were some of the most enjoyable periods of my existence. I was pursuing a postgraduate degree in finance, and she held a degree in contractual law. This simply means we both achieved success in our own professional fields. I wasn't exactly lacking in the looks department myself, standing 5'11", weighing 190 pounds, and regularly hitting the gym. While not a professional athlete, I was certainly well built. However, I've always been quite reserved and didn't have many prior relationships before meeting her. From that very first evening, we were utterly captivated by each other. We spent the entire first night talking. Then it progressed to daily texts, phone calls, and weekly dates. After a year, once I started my new job, she moved in with me. I adored her family, and they, in turn, adored me, especially her mother. Her father, like he was with everyone, remained quite distant. It was a truly rapid romance. After 2.5 blissful years filled with international trips, hiking adventures, and luxurious getaways, I proposed. She accepted, and I was absolutely thrilled. She took charge of all the wedding preparations. We often spoke about our shared future, purchasing a home, having children, and enjoying family excursions together, and all those kinds of aspirations. Then, everything changed. One evening, after we both arrived home at our apartment, she seemed somewhat withdrawn. I believe I noticed it instantly, as we were always very affectionate. This behavior occurred only once a week for the first month following the proposal. Then it became more frequent. I would have remained entirely clueless, except I spent a lot of time listening to Reddit stories on YouTube, so I decided to observe and wait. These periods of her ignoring me would only last a couple of hours. Afterward, she would revert right back to her normal self. But after 6 months, then a year, she was like this almost every single night. Our physical intimacy remained strong. Her bond with her parents was also good. However, during Thanksgiving at her parents' residence in Louisville, Kentucky, we lived just north of D.C., she was standoffish toward me in front of her mother. Now, her mother was a perceptive woman. She pulled her daughter aside for a private conversation. I could distinctly hear them arguing, though the words were muffled and heated. They eventually rejoined the family, acting as if nothing had happened. I decided I'd question her about it later, which I did. She was unwilling to discuss it and requested we wait until we were home. I agreed, as I deeply loved her and believed we could overcome anything. Her mother was an older mirror image of her, with the same captivating features, just a few silver strands in her long, thick blonde hair. This detail becomes significant later. Back at our place, I asked her again, and she still refused to talk about it. After I pressed her for a week, she finally confessed that a colleague at her workplace was attempting to get to know her better. Wishing to be transparent, she offered me her phone. As I scrolled through it, I noticed that all the messages from the time she had been distant with me were gone. There was nothing inappropriate in the visible texts. However, I went into her phone settings and activated her location tracker. Since we shared the same mobile plan, I honestly thought this would prove her innocence. Was I ever mistaken? That second weekend after Thanksgiving, she had a company holiday party. I had intended to go but fell ill with food poisoning and had to cancel. A female friend picked her up from our apartment, as they planned to drink heavily and had a designated driver for the night. We had planned for an all-night outing, so I told her to have a great time and I'd see her in the morning. So, as I was violently ill, barely able to leave the bathroom for more than half an hour, I grabbed my phone and began tracking her location. First, it showed a restaurant, then the corporate event venue, then a bar. None of this raised any red flags until I saw her phone stop at a downtown hotel. At this point, I was utterly miserable in more ways than one. I was physically ill from both ends, and now emotionally my spirit was also sick. I finally succumbed to sleep from sheer exhaustion around 2 a.m. At 7 a.m., I woke up and saw she was still at the hotel. At noon, she finally returned home, and I was starting to recover. She showered me with affection, and I asked about her night, carefully avoiding any mention of her whereabouts. She recounted the restaurant, the party, and the bar, but then claimed she went to her girlfriend's house to sleep. That was the first falsehood. For the next 3 months, she started working later and later, 3 to 4 days a week. As I began questioning her, she grew increasingly defensive. One evening, when my fiancé didn't come home until quite late, I spoke with her mother. I inquired about their Thanksgiving discussion. She confessed that she suspected her daughter might be unfaithful due to her body language. She also mentioned that her daughter was becoming more distant in their weekly text exchanges. With all these suspicions swirling in my mind, I kept them to myself. 2 weeks later, at work, I received a new project that required me to fly to the Midwest. It involved Monday through Friday travel for the next 5 weeks. Starting in 2 weeks, the role came with a salary increase, and when I shared the news with my fiancée, she was overjoyed for me. I didn't think her excitement stemmed from the same reasons as mine. So, I went online and ordered 4 motion-activated hidden cameras for our apartment. I placed one in the living room entrance, one in the kitchen, one in our bedroom, and one overlooking the hallway. They were tiny and connected to the internet via a concealed network, making them undetectable on our Wi-Fi. I secured the cameras with a strong password and then I waited. During my first week away, she had female friends over the first 2 nights and never worked late. On the 3rd night, a man visited. I was absolutely furious. I sat there in my hotel room, yelling at the monitor, calling her every terrible name imaginable. Then, they engaged in sexual acts, first on the sofa, then in our bed. She performed acts for him that I hadn't known she was capable of. The worst part was, as I watched them, I called her to ask about her day. She heard her phone ring, gestured for him to pause, and answered. I asked why she sounded out of breath, and she claimed she was at the gym exercising. As soon as the call ended, she resumed her illicit activities. When I got home that Friday evening, I ignored her and went straight to bed. Early Saturday, I got up and went cycling. I was so distraught that I didn't even realize I'd cycled over 50 miles from our apartment. The furthest I had ever ridden before was 30 miles, but that day I covered 105.6 miles. Returning utterly exhausted, I showered. That evening, she and I went out, had fun with our friends, and drank a lot. Is it breakup sex when the person you're about to end things with is completely unaware? Inside, I was a maelstrom of heartbreak, rage, fury, and a profound sense of betrayal. These emotions swirled through my heart and mind. She, who was once so attentive, was completely oblivious to all of this. It caused immense pain because my love for her was so deep. I eventually confided in one of our shared friends, and he revealed that they had all known for months. I was finally informed that they all felt sorry for me. But again, no one had said a single word to me, which was why they stopped inviting us out. I hadn't noticed it at the time, but looking back, I could see that about 3 months prior, they had gradually invited us, or rather, me, less and less. So, I decided I would try to win her back. The following weekend, I meticulously planned an entire weekend dedicated to spoiling her in every possible way. There was fine dining, pampering massages, soothing rubs, and deep conversations about future plans and how much I cherished her. I knew I was making progress when, after her 4th glass of wine, she began to weep. I could tell the guilt was surfacing. I asked what was wrong, but she choked up every time she attempted to speak. I then told her that if she had done something in her past, or was grappling with some internal conflict, she needed to tell me about it. I assured her I was more than willing to discuss it with her. And if forgiveness was required, I was completely prepared to forgive and move forward. The only words that escaped her lips were how much she loved me. It truly stung to hear that from her, as I now possessed 4 distinct videos of her and the other man engaging in intimacy inside our apartment. Over the next 8 weeks of my Midwest travels, which ended up spanning 10 weeks, I recorded over 41 hours of her having sex with her colleague. She never worked late once during my absence. Every weekend, I tried to be exceptionally attentive, but each week she grew more distant. After observing this for 8 weeks, I was finished. So, I devised a 12-step escape strategy. 1. Gather evidence. 2. Remove her from the situation to execute my plan. I scheduled a 2-week exclusive vacation for us at an all-inclusive resort in Barbados. She was overjoyed. Then, a week before the trip, I claimed I had to withdraw and told her to bring a friend instead. I knew it was over when, upon my announcement that I couldn't go, she promptly arranged for her co-worker to join her. 3. Terminate our apartment lease. It would expire 3 days into her trip, and I was the sole signatory. 4. Secure employment in a different city. The company I had been assisting in the Midwest had offered me a position with a slight salary increase. 5. Find a new residence, specifically an apartment in the previously mentioned location. When she's gone, perform the following. 6. Take her to the airport, then return home and pack all her belongings. This was done the same day, Saturday. 7. Get a new phone number, email, and cancel all social media accounts. This was done on Monday. 8. Sever all financial ties between us. I withdrew all funds from our joint accounts, then closed them. I placed all her money into an envelope and packed it with her possessions. This was done on Monday. 9. Have movers pack up all my items and ship them westward. This was also done on Monday. 10. Transport all her belongings to her mother's house, 600 miles away. All of my fiancé's possessions fit into the back and bed of my F-250 crew cab. This took Tuesday through Saturday. 11. Present her mother with the evidence. 12. Begin my new existence. I wanted to avoid anything unlawful, so I ensured none of her possessions were missing. It was incredibly difficult to neatly pack all her items. I have never wept so intensely in my entire life. I've read countless times on Reddit about partners who, when caught, promise never to repeat their actions, but they rarely stop. My hope was that she would genuinely confess so we could forgive and move forward. She never did. Twice she came very close, but her secret proved too difficult to disclose. Tuesday morning, I left our apartment north of D.C. for the very last time. The drive to her mom's house took 10 hours. What unfolded upon my arrival, I was completely unprepared for. I reached her mother's home around 8 in the evening. I assumed she would be surprised to see me, as I was arriving unannounced. Since they resided in a gated community, I had to buzz her house from the main entrance. She was waiting for me outside when I pulled up. I could tell she had been crying when I approached her. I asked what was wrong, and she embraced me, sobbing that she suspected her husband was having an affair with a much younger, slimmer, and more attractive woman. Stunned, I simply held her for what felt like 10 minutes. My right shoulder became soaked with her tears and mucus. When she finally regained her composure, I asked if we could go inside and talk. We entered, and I asked about her husband's whereabouts. She indicated he claimed he was going fishing with his friends at a secluded cabin an hour away. Then she added, he hates fishing. She shared all the signs she had observed, and apparently, this had been ongoing for about a year. So after a bit of investigation, we discovered a credit card hold for a 5-star hotel only 20 minutes away. One phone call later confirmed her husband was indeed staying there for 4 nights, cheating with his mistress. 2 peas in a pod, I stated. What? She responded. 2 peas in a pod, I repeated. Your husband is unfaithful to you, and your daughter is unfaithful to me. That's why I came here, to drop off her belongings and relocate to blank. I presented her with the evidence in a binder, showing screen captures I had made. After looking at the first 3 or 4 pages, she stared at me, dumbfounded. We both hugged and cried for a good 30 minutes at that point. She then stopped crying, looked at me and declared, well, tonight there's nothing we can do about it except for you and I to finish these 3 bottles of Moscato, and in every room of the house. She grabbed 2 wine glasses and a bottle of Moscato wine, then walked out to their private pool deck asking, are you coming out here? Are you going to get revenge? Now, I won't go into much detail because I don't want to get too explicit, but that night and for the next 3 days, we had continuous sexual encounters. I explored every part of her beautiful body. I must have climaxed inside or on her over 25 times during that period. After those days concluded, we passionately said our goodbyes, and I drove to my new destination. She kept me informed of everything that transpired when my now ex-fiancé returned. The day my fiancée got back was truly memorable. I canceled my phone the morning of her return, so when her plane landed and she called for a ride, she found the phone disconnected. Apparently, her lover drove her home. He dropped her off and departed. When she approached the door, a strange couple, new tenants, answered, and she completely panicked. I cannot tell you how many times she tried to call me, because again, the number was no longer valid. She went to her girlfriend's for temporary shelter, as her coworker was already married. When she called her mother in a state of distress, her mom informed her that I had visited and dropped off all her belongings. She also mentioned that all her funds were there as well, 600 miles away. Her mom didn't tell her that she had been with me more in 3 days than my fiancé and I had in the previous 6 months. But she did inform her that she knew about her infidelity and that I had found a new job, a place to live, and a new career far away from her and all our mutual friends. She also told her that her mother was separating from her father due to his unfaithfulness. Apparently, she wept for days and took a week off from work. But alas, she found solace in the embrace of her married paramour. Her mom never revealed my location. I had completely severed that chapter of my existence. The only connection I retained to that old life was my fiancé's mother, and she has guarded our secret to this very day. My fiancé was utterly ghosted. Wow, OP, that was an epic story. I had as much enjoyment writing that as I hope you did pulling it off.